Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's council meeting. If you haven't already, please silence your cell phones. City of Anamosa City Council Agenda Regular Session, Monday, February 12th, 2024, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library and Learning Center. 1.0 roll call.
Bob,
Here.
Robert,
Here.
Dan Smith,
Here.
Kay. Here. Tukin, Weimer.
Here.
5 council members present in chambers. We do not have a 6th council member joining us remotely. 2.0 Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
3.0 Consent Agenda, Review and Approve. I will read the 3 items. Council can make a motion including consent to approve all 3, or they can make motions as they see fit. Consent Agenda, Review and Approve. Item A, minutes from January 22nd, 2024 regular session. Item B, current bills. Item C, cigarette, tobacco, nicotine permits.
Move to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Kay, second by Dan. Council discussion on the items. Does the public have any comment on the items? Penny, would you conduct a roll vote, please?
Bob,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Kay.
Yes.
Weimer.
Yes.
Motion to approve consent carried. 4.0 public hearings. 4.1 public hearing on the proposed sale of city-owned real estate pursuant to section 364.7 of the Iowa Code. Item A, mayor opens the public hearing. I will open that at this time. Item B, proceedings. It is under this section that the public can approach the podium, state your name, and view any questions or concerns you have on this public hearing. Sure. Anybody want to speak? This would be the time if you have information to add.
Sure.
I am Heather Oswegen, Keller Williams Legacy Group, real estate agent locally. Just a little bit of information. I'm not sure if you guys received the email that I had sent Jeremiah January 19th, along with the offer documents on the city-owned parcel out there. But with the current setback rules that are in place, they were put in place in 2008. That lot really isn't usable on its own. We have also found the same thing out with the adjacent parcel, which Ms. Parham owns. As they stand alone, nothing can be done with them because of these setbacks in place. And through having Ms. Parham's lot listed, when buyers have come and kind of done their due diligence on considering that lot, it has been kind of left in the dust because nothing can be done with it. They can't really build on it. And the city has essentially kind of said that there probably would not be a variance given for it. So honestly, in my opinion, the offer on the table is a pretty smoking offer for an unusable lot. I don't know of any purposes that it could be useful for, and I have racked my brain trying to find any sort of potential investor or anything that might actually fit within the current setbacks of that lot. Also, I do believe there was some concern about a government entity purchasing that, you know, maybe some lack of tax dollars coming in or what have you, but it's pretty small lot. And I know that there were some other options out there that they were considering in other locations that would have entailed a whole lot more excavation, a lot more infrastructure, a lot more cost ultimately. Plus, I think it's, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think it's exponentially beneficial to our residents here in Anamosa to keep our county services here easily accessible, centrally located, close to the hospital, and convenient for the first responders that take care of us all. So those are just my thoughts.
My name's Greg Robber. I'm the Jones County Sheriff. I'm here kind of on behalf of the county and have also kind of been behind spearheading some of this effort. I sat on a committee when it came to the ARPA funds on how the county could best use their ARPA funds to be able to show the public of certain projects that we put together that would be lasting. One of those was storages. I've been here for 29 years now, and storage for public safety has always been an issue. And so it was quickly identified of being able to have a central location that public safety would have a place to put our services together, put our equipment together, and that way, no matter who the entity, whether it's fire, whether it's EMS, or whether it's law enforcement, we would have a centralized location that we could rapidly access and deploy equipment to get it out there when it's needed. I've been living out of a 2-stall garage for the sheriff's office now for about the last 18 years. And so to current date right now, between the sheriff's office, EMA, and Homeland Security equipment, we have equipment in 6 different locations throughout this county. And so the big goal of this is to create a public safety storage facility that we can put our message boards, we have generators, we have light towers, we have an emergency operations center, which for the homicide in Monticello was quickly deployed there to kind of give us an area to be able to run out of. Those types of things can happen anywhere. And so I think to have that type of stuff within this community is obviously a benefit to the community here. And so the long-term goal, and I've reached out to several of these partners, is that all of us would have access to be able to utilize that equipment. I know Anamosa Fire is excellent when we're out on 151 of deploying message boards. I know last year they grabbed the boat out of garage. That's how it ended up out there. And so we don't care who brings the equipment. We don't care who needs the equipment. It's about getting equipment to our emergency responders to respond to the public's emergency. And so I guess this is an opportunity where the county has set aside money for us to be able to utilize this project, and the property that she was talking about was kind of identified the best for the location and to utilize and potentially put up this public safety center. And so if this moves forward, it won't be the sheriff's office facility. It won't be the EMA facility. It will be a public safety storage with multiple responders having access. And the plan is to quickly move on this. So I will address any questions or concerns that you have.
I did speak with Sheriff Grover earlier today. One, I think it's very beneficial for the city of Anamosa to have this facility to be on its doorstep for quick accessibility. As we're all aware, at any given minute of the day, they could be called on to utilize this equipment. And I did share some concerns with him. Concern isn't a good word, just we had the conversation about making it conducive to the surroundings. And it, don't make it look like a pole building or, just a structure that doesn't belong. And Sheriff Grauber was very aware of that. He made several comments to, I guess, to assure me that that would not be the case here. So those were just some of the things that, questions I had raised. He was able to clear that up with me. So, action will come here later, but I am very supportive of this structure being placed within those lots. Obviously, the one, I don't want to say it's useless, but it is beyond limitations to what it can be used for, as well as the adjacent lot. So I think this does fit in to that area. And if things change down the road, it's a structure that can be sold relatively quickly, I think, for storage for others. For me rambling. Is there any other council have any questions or comments? Before we move out of proceedings, again, they can be also raised in the following action item, but
Should I infer that Ms. Farham is also going to sell her part, her adjacent lot? Should we?
yes,
Thank you.
Jill has agreed to sell. Obviously, she's been sitting on that parcel for a long time. She has a respected buyer. There's no other questions or comments. Item C, I will close the public hearing at this time. Move to item D, council action, resolution 2024-07. Council, this is where you can have further discussion on this and make a motion.
I will move to approve the resolution 2024-7.
Second.
The motion by Rich and second by Brooke. In council discussion. I won't go to public comment as you had your opportunity in the earlier proceedings. So with that, Penny, would you conduct a roll vote?
Melvin,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. Thank you, Sheriff Robert, for giving the consideration to have this here. And Jill for selling it off, and KW for looking for moving forward with it. Thanks. 5.0 proclamations, none. 6.0 postponed items, none. 7.0 council action items. 7.1 project status update, HR Green. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Clough with HR Green. I'll try to keep it brief. Third Street sidewalk, we are continuing to work to secure funding for that project. We've submitted to the Highway Safety Improvement Program as well as the statewide TA set aside for safe routes to school. And we've not heard back from either of them yet, but we've been in touch with the DOT and they'll be making decisions shortly. We are preparing another grant application that's due this Friday, as well as a speed feedback sign program. So at this time, that's our focus. Depending on the funding that's awarded, there's potential for phasing the project and trying to work through a budget that would at least get it started in some locations, but we're hopeful that we'll get the funding that's been requested. The sidewalk program, city sidewalk program, we continue to be available if more work is requested for this item, but at this point, I believe we're on hold. Cedar and Huber reconstruction, that design is about 95% complete and is also on hold due to budget for construction. We've continued to work and discuss it with the city to figure out what that schedule would be to get that constructed in the future. The well 7 siting study, we continue to work on that with the city and review any potential sites and access opportunities of those sites as they come up. Water treatment plant disinfection. I will make sure with the next meeting, we add a % complete for construction on this item. The temporary bleach system has been installed and it's in operation. Demolition work is in progress. Construction and installation of the permanent bleach system is yet to be done. The sewer in the alley between Ford and North Huber. HR Green's currently looking at the potential for phasing this project to allow construction to begin this season yet. And we're working with the city on that. City GIS, we're available for any work needed with the cemetery mapping project that's ongoing, as well as the lead service line inventory. With the fire department map, I understand that HR Green will be sending out a field person to GPS the fire hydrants in town and get more accurate locations of them. Once that's completed, a map will be reviewed and printed for the fire department. And lastly, the Dillon Military Bridge. We continue to work with the city on options for the bridge to potentially save it somehow and look at restoration or installation of a new bridge. So with that, are there any questions?
Was the first project that you had mentioned, sound like there was 2 entities that you were waiting to hear back from?
Yes,
Is it slow rolling just because that's how the process is?
yes.
Or are they just allowing this to fall on deaf ears as they don't want to?
No, it's how the process works. So, and it'll be the same for the regional TAP application that we're submitting at the end of this week. It'll be a few months before we have an answer. So,
So any involvement from the city would not speed the process up?
no.
Council, you all good with the project status update? All right, well, Alyssa, thank you for being
All right.
present this evening to give that update.
Thank you.
7.2, resolution 2024-08. Approving funds to outside agencies under the Hotel Motel Grant Program for fiscal year 2025.
I'll second.
Motion by Kay, second by Dan. Council's discussion on the items and the allotment of funds. Public have any comment on the allocation of the funds? Penny, would you conduct a roll vote, please?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Kay,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Motion to approve allocation carried. 7.3, resolution 2024-09. Scheduling a public hearing on the proposed vacation and transfer of city street right away to St. Pat's Church.
I don't really have additional on this. This has been something that's been looked at for a while. It's a small portion of city right of way. That's, I guess maybe I'm speaking preemptively, but it's probably a decade or so old problem that I think we're running into on a few different places throughout the city or have in the past. According to what I understand, this entity believes or has documents in their possession showing that it's theirs. Beacon, however, does not reflect that. And it may have been something that was just overlooked in the past. I did have our attorneys review this, though. They actually were involved, because, St. Patrick's got a hold of them, first. Also agreed that it makes sense to, vacate this portion, to this entity, believing that it's correct that this entity does own it. And this is just a cleanup issue on this.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for February 26th at 6 P.M.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Todd. Council discussion. Public comment. Benny, please.
We'll start with Kay,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Albert,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.4, discussion of possible action. Request to be designated the official Jones County newspaper for the city of Anamosa.
I did throw this in the packet because we got a official request from the Monticello Express shortly after we had learned that Journal Eureka was going to be closing its doors. They did send this letter out. I had returned an email to Mr. Spenceley, basically explaining. I don't know necessarily where the council would go on this matter. I appreciated him being rapid in his response or his question to us, his formal submission. But now, of course, information's changed. The Journal Eureka has now been purchased and will continue to operate. So I don't know that we need to make any changes. We could probably continue to use the Journal Eureka, but did want to put this in there in case the council wanted to make a different consideration.
Well, I appreciate their offer, but I think we need to probably keep it local.
And it was in an earlier meeting this year that we had approved the journal to be
Right.
that designated place. Any other comment from council? Any public comment?
Hello, I'm Laura Drummy. I am the new news editor at the Journal Eureka. I just kind of wanted to come in and say thank you for letting me have a little time. But first off, I want to say that the Journal Eureka is back open. We opened our doors today and our office is now open. I'm sorry for kind of the weird last 2 weeks have been with you. And I am so glad that I get to stand in front of you to tell you that it is back open. We'll have a short little edition this coming week, mostly just of kind of what's going on and some legals. And next week we will have our big welcome back edition. It'll be normal, more or less news, sports, legals, and however and what sorts. We would really appreciate it if you did keep us as your official Jones County paper. We definitely bleed in pride in this community and we definitely want to represent you well as too. So that is my food for thought for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So going to move out of 7.4 as I'm anticipating no motions to do anything else. 7.5, discussion and possible action, amended sludge hauling agreement with Midwest Injection, Steve Ignish, Public Utilities.
Steve Agnes, Utility Superintendent. What questions do you have? I give Jeremiah the email that was the response from Todd from Midwest Injection. He did not send me a contract until the council approves it basically, and then we'll get the contract to sign. So we'll gain 2 years of service and we'll be paying less money.
I just want to thank you for looking into it after the discussion last week. So thanks for getting that back to us as quick as you did, Steve.
So I'm reading or understanding this, we have basically a 3-year commitment at 53,200
Correct,
for each year.
correct.
And then if we go, we extend this an additional 2.
It drops to,
27,900.
yeah,
Per year.
it's 29,000 and then minus some credit for the loader. So it could be,
You've got 27,900 per year after the $1,100 credit back.
yeah, and that was just trying to put together a quick number with fuel costs and, you know, what the loader's worth and stuff like that. So at the end of the 4 years, you know, we'll save $14,000. We'll be saving some money and we won't have to spend as much each year. Otherwise, we're gonna pay the 159,000 in the 3 years that we have left. Otherwise, this would cost us, you know, approximately 139,000, so. We could save $20,000, 14 for sure, but possibly 20. And we'll have the service for 5 years.
So I did the math on the 4 years prior to this contract. And I figured in the anomaly with Boomerang Holland, which was, what was that? 38,000. And did an average, and that's $14,144 a year. That's a city. When we did it in-house. I feel this is a way we could save some money. We look into it in the future.
The 3-year commitment. Is what we would have left to get out of the original contract
Correct.
or extend. Except less per year will go to an additional 2 years on an overall contract. One of the ways to look at this is how quick if getting it back in-house is a process. How quickly can we do that? 3 years is the quickest.
It is. It's gonna cost us the most money though.
Overall, yeah, the overall picture, it would still cost us more money for 3 years than going out to 5 and then looking at bringing it back in-house. I mean, unfortunately, it looks like the most economical way to do it would be extend it for 2 years, get the lower price, and then bring it back.
By doing that, we also can build in the time now to figure out how we're going to pay for bringing it back into the house. So I think giving us that additional time to kind of pencil those things out makes more sense as well. Because we're gonna have to pay for it one way or the other in 5
Right.
years.
Right. And who knows in 5 years what the DNR may throw upon us too. So it makes sense to me to extend it for 2 years, get the savings in place and start making a plan then for when that rolls off.
This may not really be relevant, but can you refresh my memory as to why we chose to contract this versus not doing
This-
it
The
in-house?
sludge plan, one of the statements that was in the sludge plan. I think if I have a copy of that with me. In the sludge plan, one of the things it says, a responsible party for sludge transportation shall be a registered hauler with an approved contingency plan in the case of an unplanned release of spill and or sludge. So at that point in time, would have been Beth, and I took that as we needed to go out for contract to get somebody in. So that's why I went out for contract to get somebody in. Because we're not a registered hauler of sludge. Where Midwest Injection, that's their business. I have no idea, Kay. I never looked into it. And I was also like, yeah, and I was also new at this part of the project, like I told you guys before. We had liquid in my previous job and we pumped it. They put a drag hose in the plant and took it across the river to the field across the river. We didn't have to haul it or do anything with it other than that. So it was a little different situation and it was a learning process for me too, so. It seemed to be the win-win situation to go this route. At that point in time.
Be interesting to know if contract hauler is what is required if the city doesn't do it themselves.
Like I said, I did not get into that far,
Default to be its own contract hauler by.
so.
Steve, when we got into this contract, how many outside haulers do we have choices, I guess?
I contacted 3.
So there were 3 at the time. Do we know if
Yes.
all 3 of them are still in existence or?
Yes, yep. Cause the other one is, now that you put me on the spot, I can't think of their names.
In Nutrajet.
Nutraject's one of them. And there was a third. I still have the quotes. I'm pretty sure in my office, in my filing cabinet.
I just wanted to know if there had been an expansion of other haulers out there since we got into this or that.
To my knowledge, no. It might actually be going somewhat the other way with like just due to manpower and stuff like that.
Thank you.
So in any of the last reports, has the DNR stated anything about the hauling or have you gotten a report since then?
As a sanitary survey where they talk about stuff
Well,
like that.
What was it, the DNR that you were quoting from or? what was that?
That part came out of our sludge plan
Okay,
that we had to write basically right after I started here.
okay,
Because the old one was expiring that year and we had to have a new one in place by the end of the year. And that was part of it.
okay.
And that was wrote by HR. So. If you'd like to read it sometime, it's really interesting.
I'm sure it is.
And it's about that thick. According to that statement.
Well, I guess the question is that a requirement or was that the recommendation?
I don't remember it at that time.
Okay,
That's just the way it says it in the,
well, I mean,
In this.
because the DNR.
they
has-
approved it,
They approved the plan, but
yes.
I know they have requirements. And if you don't fulfill those requirements,
Right.
but if it's just a recommendation by HR Green, that doesn't necessarily mean
Right.
that we can't haul it ourselves then in the future.
I will have that information by the time we get this.
Okay,
And if I remember right, Rich, when we hauled, if we did actually spill a little sludge, we actually had to clean it up, disinfect the area.
Mhm.
And actually, I think it even happened to me one time. And take care of it that way, but we just reported to Iowa DNR and they were good with it, as long as we took the, measures to
Yeah.
clean it up.
yeah, but I also know things change with them all the time, so. That would be, you've got to, if we do this, then you'll have 5 years to get that figured out for sure.
Because I do believe that the sludge plan will be actually up the year before the contract is.
Okay.
This contract will be up.
So
We'll
do
have
the,
to
do the
cost
math
that
for me. What's the total cost for sludge hauling for the next 5 years? Somebody give me that number?
If you don't encounter if you take the loader off, it's $139,500.
For
If
the
you
next
just
5
go
years?
the 3 years or the 5 years, it's 159.
It's 160,000 basically.
Yep. And we're gonna drop it down to basically 140. Counting the loader. I'm sorry, that's counting the loader.
I'm confused. 3 years is 159,000. Stay the course we're on right now.
Right.
5 years is 145.
Yes,
Less some deducts.
less the loader and the
Fuel.
fuel for then that'll get us down to 139.5
139.
approximately.
If we. The 3 year versus the 5 year without the deducts is $14,000. That's the
Correct.
difference.
That's the
Mhm.
difference.
We can make that up very quickly. Like within 2 years, you're using your own money now.
Mhm.
If we bring it back in house. To factor in the 139.5 is now an additional. Basically year cost of hauling it yourself. So in less than. In 2 years, you can be even money across the board. If you even if we went the maximum, the 159,000. For 3 years, 2 years later, you'll be. Operating back at zero.
Providing the rules and regulations haven't changed. And I guess I would think we would need to know whether that's a suggestion or a requirement.
Like I said, the sludge plan will be due the year before. If you guys agree to extend this tonight, the sludge plan has 3 more years to it, and then I'll have to update it anyway. Because it's only a 5-year plan. So. And we can get all those questions answered, hopefully at that time.
So you're saying, Rod, if we pay the 2 years
3.
at this current rate,
All I was doing was just trying to spell it out. 3 years is 159,000.
okay,
If you go the
stay the course.
5 year, stay in your current course, 5 years with the minimal amount you would have to pay is 139.5. That difference is basically 2 years in the city hall on its own slot.
Or less.
That's all I was trying to do is just give you those
Yep, thank you.
numbers. I feel that, I guess I would like to see a motion. Either way, you stay the course, make a motion that you're gonna stay the course. Or a motion to go with the extension. The 2 year extension at the lower rates.
I would make a motion to stay the course for the next 3 years and then look at it doing in-house.
The motion by Dan to continue with the current contract. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brooke. Council discussion?
So what is the benefit of staying at 159,000 compared to over 3 years as opposed to dropping it to 139,000 or whatever it is?
My thoughts are, is we have the equipment, we have the staff. We have all the knowledge to do this in-house. We have the resources, Rich, so once the 3 years is over, we're free and clear to start saving the city money. If you drag it out another 2 years, it's extended money at a reduced rate, but we're still paying somebody else when we could do it in-house.
But the big picture of this is you're spending $159,000. If you put it over 5 years, you're gonna spend $139,000, so you're saving 20-some thousand dollars. In the big picture. So you're actually costing us money. So I'm trying to figure out what the benefit is.
Well, roughly 30,000 a year, right? To haul this, 29 something.
27.
No, if we stay the course, it's $53,900 a year
Right.
for the 3-year
3 years.
contract. If we go to the 5-year, then it drops to 29
Or 27.
or 27, yes.
So
And
help me out here to understand the overall big picture of the benefit of staying the course.
Essentially, my thinking on it is the sooner we get out of the contract, the sooner it costs us $15,000 a year instead of 30 or 50.
but do we have any idea about the labor costs of doing it ourselves, the fuel costs of doing it ourselves? Do we have the equipment to do it ourselves?
Well, I can tell you
And
this.
do we have the rules and regs?
Well, we do have the equipment, that part I get, but when you did the cost analysis before, what did you come up with for that number?
So I included it in the packet. It's on that third page. If I wasn't quite at, I think Dan said 14,000 some odd dollars. We estimated it, excuse me, at 15,000, pretty close. If we stay the course, it's going to cost us 189,600 over the 5-year period. That's including those 2 years of cutting it down. If we update the contract today and go ahead and pay that for 2 more years, we spend 139,500 over 5 years. So we're saving the money over 5 years by staying the course.
Or
And
by-
then-
By
or
going,
by-
by-
Excuse me, by amending the contract and then going, if the council chooses at that point to go to that in-house, then we can go and get to our, who knows what it'll be in, 5 years, but
and your 15,000 is a low estimate. I said,
yeah, and that was basically, I don't have those calculations with me, but as we were figuring the number of employees that would be required, roughly 2 weeks of time dedicated to that. The fuel, a 30 cent per mile estimate for wear and tear, which is just an average figure. It basically was pretty close to Dan's estimate of 14 some odd thousand. I just put 15,000.
12 and 15,000.
Yes, 12 and 15,000. Then that was, so this estimate here was factoring in all of those costs. Is the other thing that was pointed out was we can't put the lowest paid employees on it necessarily. There's certain requirements within the, internally, we'd have to have others operating. So 15,000 is a ballpark.
So you need 5 Class B CDL drivers.
What are the insurance ramifications of doing it ourselves?
I don't know that there's, I mean, I guess it depends on those requirements versus recommendations factor. At this point, I mean, I know we've done those operations before and I'm not sure what, if any, insurance ramifications there were. But as been pointed out, if something has changed, we may have to know those either in the next 3 years or the next 5 years, one of the two.
well, and if I recall too, Dan, you had a couple of instances where you had a small window of getting things hauled. So that's one of the times when you had to go hire Boomerang to haul it.
The 38,000 was that year. So it's kind of an anomaly. But we had like 4 days to get it out before the rain and we did do it 4 days.
But we also had a couple other times that we spent 20,000 for Boomerang too, if I remember right.
I don't see it in the last
So,
four,
I
for the
mean-
contract.
Anytime we went to an outside source, it costs fairly significant amounts.
Guess my question is, if we go with the 5-year contract, if we redo it, my understanding is we go from paying $53,200 in first year of the new 5-year contract, $27,900. And having been through budget discussion, seems to me that there's something to be said about saving $26,000 in year one, when we didn't know that we would be able to save $26,000 in year one until we got this
Right.
possible new contract. I get wanting to get out of the contract sooner, but I don't know that we have the information necessary to obligate ourselves to the 3 years that we're currently under, when we might be better served to reduce the price.
I agree.
Unfortunately, we're kind of stuck. We're stuck one way or
We
the
are.
other.
And looking at what Jeremiah put, saving $50,000 over the 5 years, that's at least $10,000 savings over those 5 years. Big picture wise, that's a fairly decent sum.
Somehow we don't know what the changes might be.
I'm just not impressed with this company because they hook. But if they can drop that much money every year, they know they got you good. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but didn't you say there was a discussion about some of the pricing was based on wet tonnage and it was dry
So-
tonnage, and there was some confusion on,
So the
How it
numbers
was
that
done?
I went out for bid were the numbers that were on the sludge reports that was turned into the EPA. So in 2019, there was 638 supposedly dry metric tons that was hauled. In 2020, there was 722 supposedly dry metric tons that was hauled. Those were the numbers that were put on the reports that are certified to EPA. Since then, we have not reached that much tonnage, but when you take the numbers that I have hauled since I have been here with the first 2 years, if you convert my dry metric tons back to wet tons, you end up between 600 and 700 tons. So I'm just assuming that there was an error made, because now we're running the press just as much as I'm sure everybody else is. I don't see where I've talked to some people that were employees that have been here, and the amount of sludge that's in the trickling filter is the same since I've been here as it was when they were here. So that tells me that there was a mistake made on the report. So I went out with the higher numbers. That's how we got into this contract, because we had the higher numbers. That was all the information I had.
We've got 3 years left on the current contract, right?
Mhm.
So there's $160,000 if we just said, I'm breaking the contract, we'd be out 160 grand that we'd have to pay. And which we can't do, but 3 years from now, we can be looking at it, because we're gonna have to be considering whether we're gonna be hauling it ourselves, or gonna have to re-let a new contract fairly soon after that, so I am just struggling with needing the money sooner rather than later. We get a savings sooner rather than later.
Particularly when we don't know exactly everything we need to know in order to haul them.
And I don't disagree that this company clearly could make some cuts if they're willing to drop it down, but that's kind of water over the dam at this point.
The 3 remaining years. The 2 we've already paid for that.
Yep.
That money's rolled down the Wapsie by now. So the 3 remaining years is $159,600. Versus a 5-year is $139,500.
Yes.
So that's a $20,000 savings, I guess, if you wanna look at 5 years down the road. But in 3 years, you could be hauling it yourself for, I'm gonna figure this 15,000 Jeremiah had put together. So in 2 years, you've eaten all that up already.
Well, except when you look at the 5-year bucket and the total of 189,000 compared to 139,000.
Yeah, I mean, you're still gonna, you have a $15,000 cost to haul yourself.
Right. So, just looking at that aspect of it, I would say that we almost have to go with the 5-year extended. Do the due diligence on finding out certain things, getting the plan rewritten. And like Todd said, if we can save $26,000 right out of the chute, right now, that's something. And that's per year for the next 3 years.
The motion. Council have any comment on this? Or, excuse me, does the public have any comment? Penny, would you go ahead and conduct a roll vote, please?
Yes, we will start with Weimer,
No.
Crump,
No,
Albert,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Kay,
No.
Motion fails for a majority. Entertain other motions.
I'll make a motion to extend the contract through 5 years to lower the price to the 27.9.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Todd to move forward with the option 2, 27.9 annual council discussion. Public comment? Penny?
Kay,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
No.
Albert,
No.
Crump,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Motion to approve, carry, 3 favor, 2 opposed. 7.6, review and approve citywide spring cleanup on Saturday, April 6, 2024, from 7 AM to 11 AM, Shane Brown Streets Department.
Shane Brown, Streets Department. This has been going on since I've been here, 6 or so years now. We're just gonna continue it. Hope you all can show up with your junk. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks for that animated presentation, Shane.
I don't know how I top that, but, I guess basically we were just, this is the date that we proposed. We tried to get it after the inclement weather, but before things get too crazy. And, so this is the first weekend of April. Been busy every year in the past, and I guess if the council's good with this date, we'll kind of plan on that and start getting stuff out and let citizens know. I don't think so. Yeah.
Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion. Public comment. Benny?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Albert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Kay,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.7, review and approve legal services contract with Lynch Dallas PC.
I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Lynch Dallas reached out to me. Well, it's actually been a few weeks ago. Requested to get this on one of the upcoming packets. It's there was not a rush on it, but, it got bumped for a few other priority issues over the last couple of meetings. Basically just identifying the fact that costs, I think in general are going up, same as, for our attorneys. This is their agreement. I didn't find the original agreement. I was assured there were no changes other than those costs associated with it, however. Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward otherwise.
So have you been satisfied with their services?
Yes, I think in general, there's been more than, a number of occasions where we've got everything we needed out of it. A few hiccups, just a larger firm sometimes I know they represent several other communities. So there's a few times we have to stay on them and just, request, some more expedited services. But the last several weeks, months has been, very good, so.
If we move forward with this, they'll provide you a new contract.
Yes, correct.
Will we be maintaining, I guess Patrick McConnell, in a sense, has his own office within Lynch Dallas. Will he still be the quarterback for us, or will that change to, is a different go-to person?
No, I believe Patrick would still be our primary, which on a kind of a week-to-week basis for us at City Hall, it really varies. We deal with, multiple different attorneys there, depending on the purpose, that we're looking for. I know a lot of the internal complaints, we deal with Amy Reasoner and, real estate matters, Doug Herman. So it's kind of all over, just depending on, the needs of the city. But yes, primary, Patrick is our kind of initial go-to.
How long have they been the city attorney? Is
Me-
it's just the end of the first contract?
Yeah, 2019 or 2020, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, before
And-
COVID, yeah.
Yeah,
And as I understand the contract continues to roll over until one or the other parties makes or requests something different, correct?
correct.
One of the things that perhaps if we are continuing to retain them, it does say that they will, among other things, assist us with compliance with state and federal laws and regulations and also environmental issues. One of the things that maybe we can be talking with them about at some point is whether or not it is a requirement to be, or what we had in our prior discussions about the sludge hauling. That might be something that they could fairly quickly address, since that would be what they cover in their contract.
You might also look at the 503 regs for the Iowa DNR.
Right.
That's all sludge hauling.
But if we're paying them, we're getting their opinion, and at some point that might be nice to have, I guess.
I will motion to approve the legal services contract.
I'll second.
Motion by Kate, second by Rich. Further council discussions? Public comment? Any?
Albert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Kay,
Yeah.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.8, review and approve consent agenda. Pay request totaling $11,017.50. I will read both items on the agenda and council can make a motion to include consent. Item A from HR Green in the amount of $240 for GIS services. Item B from Martin Garner Architecture in the amount of $10,777.50 for phase 2 of the Anamosa Downtown Revitalization Project phase.
Move to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Rich, second by Dan. Council discussion. Public comment. Any, please?
Crump,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Kay,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Albert,
Yes.
Motion to approve consent carried. 8.0 City Administrators Report.
I don't have anything except for, Laura, thank you for being here tonight. I think some of us have been following KCRG. They've kind of been running this since the beginning. If you had the privilege, I made the news the other night. They reached out to me and wanted to know from the city's perspective, well, I guess what we thought of the purchase and Journal Eureka, for lack of better terms, quote unquote, being saved. Just said that we, as a city, we're thankful for that. It's never good when you find out your local newspaper is not going to be in existence anymore. So I just expressed my eagerness and excitement to work with the new owner. So if you didn't see it, it's not worth watching. So I wouldn't bother. Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
I appreciate your celebrity status.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Council have any questions or direction for Jeremiah? 9.0 Mayor and Council's report. 9.1 Mayor's report. I have nothing at this time. 9.2 Council reports.
Karen, you may have to help. The bill that would take away the library board is still in the legislature, you all, and put it in the city. Underneath the city council, you all need to talk to your legislature and tell them that's a bad idea.
That has to
Right?
come out of,
Yeah.
that has to come out of committee this week, doesn't it, to move forward?
So, okay, fun little updates with Aaron. I don't have my sheet in front of me, so you'll have to bear with me on the numbers here. But basically last Thursday, there was a Senate file and they're like, hey, you know, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be bad for the library. Mandatory funding and stuff like that is not gonna be, you know, provided anymore. And everyone's like, this is very bad. And so they're like, okay, we're gonna take a step back on that one. So then they put forward another one, that is a House file, and that's House File 678. 3131 is the one that got stopped. 678 is the House File 678. So basically what that does is it takes library boards and they're not necessary anymore, which isn't necessarily a problem because the city already is the one who appoints the people on the library board. And then on top of that, the funds are ultimately approved by the city anyway. However, there is a lot of training that goes into being on the library board. We have an 80-page packet you have to go through. There's a decent amount of onboarding to make sure that privacy laws and whatnot are being followed. And for smaller libraries and stuff like that, if council controlled some of the budgets, it wouldn't necessarily go towards what the board is putting it towards. Am I worried here? No, but do I worry for the smaller libraries in our community? I do. And when you see those smaller libraries start to fail, what's going to happen is you are going to see these people start coming to the bigger libraries, which is fine, but I can't offer them full service. They have technically their own library. So you're going to have a bunch of pockets in our community that I can't offer service to, that we can't afford to offer these services to if stuff like this goes through. So this is problematic because we're going to see large portions of our population in our smaller areas because most of the libraries in Jones County are A or B that are going to be affected by stuff like this. On top of that, this morning, the Senate put forward another bill that's basically the exact same thing. And it did move to committee. So both the House and has something that has moved to committee that could take away agency for library boards, that could take away agency for like funds and stuff like that. There is still library funds that are mandatory. It's just, you know, if they didn't like the library, they could build like a water fountain or something like that. They're like, you need a water fountain outside. That'd be really good. Or a fixture. Or you know what? Have you fixed your sidewalks recently? So it's a really good way. Also, the nice thing right now is there has been a lot of pushback in Iowa. It's been all over the news. It's no secret of materials on shelves. People have disliked things for one reason or another, and they've tried to get it removed. Thus far, it's been nice to have the library board. It's separate from city council, and city council can be like, look, we have these rules, we have these policies. This is what we need to follow to make sure that we stay accredited, to make sure that we're staying up to date with the state. If city council is in charge of that, you guys get to hear all of that. Isn't that fun and exciting? You get to go through the 2-hour meeting of getting screamed at, how we need to save our children. So there's nothing really positive about this bill. And I see a lot of negative effects for our community, a lot of loss of service as well. So especially living in rural Iowa, a lot of the times these free resources like the library are the only places you can get help. We help people sign up for food stamps. We help them get housing. We are helping people get citizenship. We're making sure people are reading. We're helping with food insecurity. And we do it all for free. And when you start losing these resources, I don't know where people go. So you can go ahead. There's public comments online. I can send it to all of you, or you can make a public comment and say you do not support this. There is also some paperwork you guys can sign saying that like, I don't agree with this. This is going to negatively affect Iowans. And you can sign that to say you disagree. So I can send that to you as well. So this has been Updates with Aaron.
Thank you for your help.
Yes.
Any additional reports? 10.0 public comment for items not on the agenda. 11.0 adjournment. The CB's meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Please.